This is all part of MayDay. This is obviously what MayDay is going to be. This is the 1st of May. This is the rallying of the working people nationwide, listeners, that's going to be rallying at all points right throughout this nation. Lest we not forget the price that's been paid by the workers and what is ahead of us for the working people of this nation. What does MayDay offer the public and the people in terms of direction?
Firstly, from a historical point of view, it's the 125th year that Labor Day has been celebrated and observed here in Queensland. It's always a huge event. There's 30,000 people that march in Brisbane and probably 40,000 across the state. And why it's relevant today more than ever is it really represents a day in which the community can celebrate the fact that union values are community values. So those values of a fair go, of creating a better society, of giving a hand up to those that need it, and continuing, I guess, to push forward on the things that really keep working people up at night, things like jobs, things like health, education, public services, keeping our public assets in public hands, making corporations pay their fair share of tax, making sure that every kid, regardless of their parents' pay packet, has the opportunity to fulfil their potential in life. These are the things that we hold dear today as ever. The Turnbull government isn't just too close to big business. They're absolutely held captive by them. They're their, LNP members. They're their donors. Big business is the one that feed this government, and they are paying them back handsomely and in abundance.
On Skype, we must welcome Ros McClellan, and she's the General Secretary of the Queensland Council of Unions, known as the QCU. Welcome on board, Ros.
G'day, Sharon.
And here on my left, I've got Len Cooper, and he is the involved with the, of course, the Communications Workers Union, and has been actively involved, and is also a member of the Victorian MayDay Committee.
What the employers are doing day by day is forcing workers to work longer hours without overtime, sometimes longer hours without even getting paid. And so rather than hours being reduced in workers' interests and in society's interests, they're actually increasing. So it's very relevant today, and it should be debated a lot more.
About people being squeezed, about people's, blood, sweat and tears, their precious leisure time and family time being stolen. It was absolutely appalling for the Productivity Commission to insinuate that some workers' time with family and friends is worth compensating and others not. Townsville's unemployment rate overall is 7.1%, with youth unemployment nudging 20%. 237 workers have recently been sacked from Queensland Nickel. There are 580 meat workers who've been stood down for 4.5 months, the longest end of season shutdown for over a decade, at the same time as their jobs are literally floating by on ships in Townsville Harbour due to live exports. 160 rail jobs have been lost, 178 jobs at the Telstra call centre.
It wants to bring in the ABCC legislation against building workers, and I think it is important to re-emphasise what Ros has said. Part of the provisions of that Act are that workers don't have the right to silence, so if the inquisitors are after them and they don't want to tell them what happened in the meetings of the union members and who said what, they're not allowed to do that because they get automatic jail time for refusing that, or certainly they're charged for so they have no right to silence, and they have no right to a lawyer of their own choice. It's appointed for them by the state. So these are rights that are basic fundamental rights that criminals enjoy, but building workers are going to have that used against them. And I would argue, as a communication worker, that once that is in with the building workers, that will be flowed to other industries and other workers.
From the time of Mr Howard on, has been very much an attack on workers, has it not? How do you envisage, should a Turnbull government be retained, what can be expected of the working people generally?
Absolutely, the Turnbull government should not be returned. The main issue here, as far as Queensland unions see it, is jobs. That's secure jobs, it's decent jobs, It's jobs that are underpinned by a fair-minded industrial relations system. And the second issue, it's about making sure that corporations pay their fair share of tax to adequately fund the social agenda that affords universal, high quality and easy access for any member of the community to health, education, higher education, great public services and the like.
It's one of the reasons why this federal election is so important. We have to defeat the national government, the federal government, because all of those things will be intensified. The attacks on workers and the casual labour and so on will be intensified.
The ABCC means that building workers have got less rights than an ice dealer. Apparently that's okay if you're the Turnbull government, but try and call big corporations, banks, businesses to account, politicians to account, and watch them run screaming from that kind of public scrutiny.
Yes.
On the Melbourne MayDay agenda, the other things that the Melbourne MayDay Committee wants to emphasise this year is opposition to the phony free trade deals that the federal government is entering into, like the TPP. Even though the government's adopted it at the moment, it hasn't been adopted by Australia or the Australian Parliament and other parliaments of the world, so the pressure's being kept on. And we want to make this MayDay a protest against that. And then, of course, this year's the 50th anniversary of Pine Gap. So the issue of foreign bases in other lands and in Australia and an independent foreign policy is a big one on the MayDay agenda in Melbourne as well.
Stasi-type police
Right.
upon workers. This is not dictatorship-style conduct of a government.
If Sharon, if this is a window into the future of what Australia is like under a Turnbull LNP government, then I've got to say it's a pretty scary view. I mean, Malcolm Turnbull as Prime Minister, if he were to be re-elected, we really have to take a good hard look at ourselves and think, who are we?
But I want to thank you very much indeed for joining me today, listeners especially. And we need to be active, we need to be participants, we need to make our democracy work, and we need to assert our freedoms and liberties, and we need to assert them, particularly in this political and economic climate.
It's GBB, yeah, you know me, rapping the NT streets, down the VIC, rapping it rapidly, attacking all the hip-hop beats. See what happens when you see indigenous MCs rock across the nation, hoping they get overseas, cause it's more than just a dream, plus we do this for our people, the FIFA all